Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. In 1858, a heat wave caused the River Thames to reek unbearably due to raw sewage dumping. The stench was so intense that Parliament ended sessions early. The curtains were soaked in chloride to mask the smell. This was the tipping point that finally pushed London to build a modern sewer system. The largest flying creature on Earth was the Asdarchid pterodactyl. Its wings were 12 to 13 meters long. Japan has been the top creditor in the world, holding the highest net external assets since 1990. Punch drinks originated from India, and the word punch is a loan word from Hindi meaning 5, as the drink was frequently made with 5 ingredients: alcohol, sugar, juice, and from either a lime or a lemon, water, and spices. Matt LeBlanc, or Joey from Friends, starred in a movie about a chimpanzee with prodigious baseball talent. It made 18% of its budget, has a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes, and was nominated for 4 Razzie Awards, including Worst Picture and Worst Screen Couple. In ancient Scythian society, when a king died, his servants, cooks, and horses were buried with him, reflecting beliefs about service in the afterlife and the brutal reality of social hierarchies, where a king's death could lead to the death of many innocent individuals. Car manufacturers sell spicy tape. It's a wiring tape that's coated with capsaicin to deter rodents from chewing on wires. Abraham Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. He fought over 300 matches and lost only one, to a local tough named Hank Thompson during the Black Hawk War of 1832. Dogs are able to smell the difference between ground that has recently been stepped on versus undisturbed ground, as footsteps release moisture on the soil and can damage vegetation, which would release odors. Because U.S. constitutional amendment ratification doesn't have a deadline, the amendment proposed in 1861 for making slavery constitutionally protected could, in theory, still be ratified. There was an Egyptian pharaoh referred to as Hujefa on ancient lists of pharaohs. Modern historians have realized this was not actually his name, and instead means erased in ancient Egyptian. His real name was lost in ancient times. There's a Japanese term, Yaro Yorozu no Kami, meaning 8 million gods. The idea behind it is that there are countless gods believed to be present in everything: weather, geography, landscapes, and even in things like tools, rice, kitchens, and toilets. Gerald Ford is the only person to serve as president without winning an election for president or vice president because of the 25th Amendment, which says that the vice president becomes president if the president dies, reigns, or is removed from office by impeachment. In 1950, the Italian town of Collebrado declared itself the town of the living dead after a local curse and started wearing white sheets at night to protect themselves from misfortune. The UK's Violet Club nuclear device was so unstable that it required the core to be filled entirely with half a ton of ball bearings to prevent it from accidentally detonating. Chinese eunuchs who had their stuff cut off with a knife served as high-ranking civil servants. Eunuchs were considered pure, while those under 10 were termed thoroughly pure. This system lasted from 146 AD until 1924, and the last imperial eunuch died in 1996. In 1916, Woodrow Wilson ran for re-election on the slogan, "He kept us out of war," promising to maintain neutrality during World War I. But shortly after his surprise win, he led the US into war in 1917. It sparked significant backlash and dramatically shifted the nation's foreign policy. In Germany, escaping from prison isn't considered a crime. The law recognizes the human instinct to seek freedom, so successfully breaking out doesn't result in extra punishment. Katrina Lung was an FBI informant and double agent for the US and China. Codenamed Parlor Maid, she was recruited to spy on China, but eventually passed sensitive intel to China. She had sexual relationships with 2 FBI agents, James Smith and William Cleveland Jr., both whom were her handlers. Minnesota is the only state to have consecutively voted blue in every presidential election since 1976, past 13 elections, and the only state to have never voted for Reagan. In the 1884 election, Grover Cleveland should have had an easy path to office, but a scandal broke. He was accused of fathering a child out of wedlock and abandoned the mother. As a result, he won by a razor-thin margin of just 1,047 votes, or 0.09% of all votes cast in the state. Gadgetbahn is a new word that refers to a public transit concept that is touted as futuristic or innovative. but in practice is less feasible, reliable, or more expensive than traditional modes such as buses, trams, and trains. In Nevada, the ballot has included none of these candidates since 1976, giving voters a unique way to protest their choices. It can't win an election, but in 2014, it received more votes than a major party candidate in statewide race, allowing voters to express their dissatisfaction. George the lobster is the oldest recorded lobster ever, estimated to be 140 years old, born approximately 1869. This was at the time of his capture in 2008 off the coast of Newfoundland. He was released back into the wild in 2009, and it's unknown if he remains alive today. Bookworms aren't just a term for readers. Bookworms are actual bugs that used to burrow into ancient books, damaging them by eating the binding glue and paper fibers. The Prohibition Party, who advocated for the banning of alcohol in the 1920s, is still active, making them the oldest active third party in American history. In the 1876 US election, disputed votes nearly led to a civil war. Democrat Samuel Tilden won the popular vote, but an electoral commission awarded the presidency to Rutherford B. Hayes. In exchange for Hayes' win, federal troops were withdrawn from the South, ending Reconstruction. The actress Daryl Hannah was diagnosed as an autistic child. Doctors recommended she be institutionalized, but her mother opted for a change in environment, moving to Jamaica with her. The state of Georgia forbids banishment beyond its borders, so the state gets around it by instead banning criminals from 158 out of 159 counties, with the last one, Eccles, being so poor and remote that those banished leave the state instead. In 2011, a woman sued P. Diddy for $1 trillion, claiming he was behind the 2001 attacks and was the father of her child. That, at one point, might have been considered crazy, but now... The stunt pilot Charles Hamilton was known for often flying drunk and crashed over 60 times. However, he survived every time and instead died of tuberculosis. There's a female chimpanzee who enjoys TV, let's say adult entertainment. Not only does she use the remote control perfectly well, but she also regularly chooses adult entertainment over other programming by herself. Highway hypnosis is an altered mental state in which an automobile driver can drive lengthy distances and respond adequately to external events with no recollection of consciously having done so. Adults who played Pokemon video games extensively as children have a brain region that responds preferentially to images of each Pokemon. Stanford researchers identified the brain region activated by Pokemon characters. Body integrity identity disorder is a rare psychological condition where individuals feel an overwhelming desire to amputate a healthy limb, believing it doesn't belong to them. This disconnect between body and mind leads to some extreme measures feeling incomplete until the limb is removed. Boltif Boltifson was the only person executed for heresy in Sweden. He denied that the Eucharist was the body of Christ, telling a priest, if the bread were truly the body of Christ, you would have eaten it all yourself a long time ago. He was burned in 1311. In contrast to high treason, petty treason was a crime in England which involved the killing of a social superior seen as breaking the social hierarchy. An example would be a servant killing their master. Unlike with high treason, men would be hanged but not quartered, women would be burned but not drawn. While the first computer built, the Z3, had only 176 bytes of memory, the first computer designed over 100 years earlier had 16.6 kilobytes of memory. The .nu top-level domain intended for the country of Niue is currently managed by the Swedish Internet Foundation. The government of Niue is in legal proceedings to reclaim ownership of the domain. There's actually a Lyme disease not caused by deer ticks, but by exposure to lime juice and UV light. In 1907, chemist Leo Baekeland accidentally overheated a mixture of chemicals while trying to find a substitute for shellac. Instead, he created Bakelite, the first fully synthetic plastic, which transformed manufacturing and paved the way for modern plastics and polymer industries. Terminal lucidity is an unexpected brief period of clarity or energy in individuals who have been very ill or in the state of decline. It's a phenomenon that's been observed in people with various terminal conditions. The world record for longest stationary manual, which is staying on the back two wheels with front two off the ground while not moving on a skateboard, is 2 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 22 seconds. It was achieved by Brandon Gonzalez in 2017. He trained for 6 years before his successful record attempt. In 1859, an Australian man named Thomas Austin released 24 rabbits for hunting on his estate. With no natural predators, they multiplied so rapidly that within a few decades they overran Australia, causing massive ecological damage and leading to one of the largest control efforts in history. Between 1970 and 1997, so many post office workers snapped and killed their co-workers that a new slang, going postal, became a new slang term for becoming exceptionally angry. Disney tried to change the film Dead Poets Society to be about dancing instead of poetry, and to rename it Sultans of Swing. Gabe Newell, co-founder of Valve Corporation, has an armada of luxury yachts worth around $1 billion. 18-year-old Dick Van Dyke enlisted in the Air Force during World War II. He sang and danced on base in Sherman, Texas, with the hopes of avoiding being sent to fight the Japanese. An impromptu audition at the latrine earned him a permanent announcing gig on the base. According to tribal lore, the Choctaw tribe settled in the land of present-day Alabama after sailing across the Gulf of Mexico, or Gulf of America, from the Yucatan Peninsula. DNA evidence supports this origin theory. Jason Paget, once a furniture salesman, became a mathematical savant after a brain injury in 2002. Following an assault, he began perceiving complex geometric patterns and fractals, a rare condition called acquired savant syndrome, which led him to create intricate math-based art. And that's it. Let me know which one of these facts you guys enjoyed the most. Leave a like on this video, it helps me a lot, and of course subscribe for more mind-blowing facts coming your way soon.